My dear friends, my dear subscribers, my dear viewers, I'm Gennady Polonsky and you're on my YouTube channel. Today my guest is Miss Lynne McTaggart. Lynne is a very known author. She has written fantastic 3 best-selling books, The Field, The Intention Experiment, and The Power of Fate, her latest book. Lynne is very controversial in her writing, in her thinking, in her beliefs. She is convinced that our thought is much more powerful than we tend to believe. She is known also that she is not just writing theoretical stuff, which is impossible to prove, but she is setting up experiments. And from 2007, she created probably the largest laboratory on Earth, enlisting top universities, top world universities, her readers, her followers, and other people who want to take part in the experiment. And then using this huge scale, she has set up about 30, I think 4 experiments to date, with 31 proving really interesting results. But enough talking about that. Lynne is here with me now, and please welcome Miss Lynne McTaggart. Hello, Lynne.
Hi, how are you, Gennady?
Yeah, I'm very good, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you, as well as my viewers and my subscribers. I made an announcement on Facebook that we're going to see interview with Lynne McTaggart, and I've got very positive responses. So you're quite known in my part of the world as well.
That's so great for me to know. Wonderful.
Let me start with the maybe traditional question, the question which you were tackling and dealing with for more than 20 years. Intention. What is it?
Mhm.
What is the power of intention?
Well, first of all, people think that intention is that little power thought maybe we have if we meditate in the morning. We just hold on to a thought and then we let it go, and that is the only thought the universe hears. But the new science shows us that mind is not equivalent to brain, that our thoughts are actual trespassers. They go out into the world. They are an energy, and they go out in the world, and we know from a lot of the science that they can affect physical things in the world and other things in the world. And so I like to say a thought is not only a thought is a thing that affects other things. And we are beaming all the time. We are beaming every moment of our day.
Yes, and beaming means that I remember in one of your books you were saying that every cell in our body radiates a thought in a way. I mean, it lights up. So, and if we look at ourselves as the organism, it's not only this part of us which generates thinking, but it's the whole, our body basically is can be said that it's a thought. Or
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the science shows, and a very famous Russian physicist was one of the people who showed this, Dr. Konstantin Korotkov, that we are beings of light, that every cell in our bodies, all the DNA in our cells sends out a tiny current of light. And these light emissions affect not only are sent out, but are responded to by other living things. And so this may be the mechanism by which thoughts affect the world. I mean, we certainly have seen in studies using Dr. Korotkov's equipment at the University of Arizona that when healers are sending out intention, that light changes in their dominant hand. So if they're right-handed, that light is changing as it comes out. So we don't know for sure. We certainly know that there is a change in electromagnetic energy, in magnetic energy, and in this light when we are sending out thoughts. So what we can say is certainly thoughts create an energy that goes outside our body and affects things in the world. as I like to say, thoughts are trespassers. They get into all kinds of people and things.
Right. And some people can say that, yes, it can be actually even proven that when you enter the room, and if you don't like someone in the room, and no matter how hard you try, smile, that other person actually feels it. Some people say it's body language. It's something which is like, but some people say, like you do, that willy-nilly we generate this negativity towards that person, and which is
Oh
really,
yeah, people do feel it. You know, people will say, I don't like that person, and oftentimes it's in a response to what somebody else is saying. And certainly I've found in my work two things. One is that thoughts do affect other people all the time and can be picked up, even by perfect strangers. I do, with my workshops, I play a little game with my participants, and this is on online workshops. I will have them send a thought to someone else on the call. We'll put them into pairs or in groups or whatever. And in a significant amount of cases with the participants, that recipient will know, they'll pick up something of what that person has sent. Let's say they send them an image of an object they love. They will pick up something about that, and sometimes the thing itself. So we're beaming out all the time, and people do feel it. And of course, there's Italian research showing that we have a thing called mirror neurons in our brain. And those mirror neurons light up when we have a thought, an emotion, or perform an action, but they also light up when someone else performs a thought, performs an action or has an emotion. So we are picking up the thoughts of other people all the time.
and it's interesting that you were staging huge experiments. And I've read somewhere that from in 2007, you started something which is like the largest laboratory on earth. You included your followers, your readers, some universities, in order to prove physically on the material basis that yes, it's not just somebody's conceptual theoretical thing, but actually has got a manifestation in the real world. And another thing which I think is part of what you are famous for is that intention is okay, but power of intention, multiplied intentions, when intentions of a group of people synchronized, and the intention becomes really, really powerful. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. I got very interested in the idea about intention back in the early part of this century, or around the 2000s, when I had researched a number of frontier scientists demonstrating in the laboratory about these many intention experiments, mind over matter experiments, they called them. And they were showing that our thoughts can affect everything from single-celled organisms to full-fledged human beings. So I had a lot of questions about this. And this was around the time that movies like The Secret and ideas about the law of attraction were coming out. And I'm a skeptical journalist. I'm a journalist by training, an investigative reporter. So the journalist in me was basically saying, well, how far can we take this? You know, what are we talking about here with intention? Are we talking about just subtle effects like affecting quantum particles? Or are we talking about curing cancer with our thoughts? So I decided to test it because by that time, my book, The Field, was in 30 languages. And I knew a lot of these scientists working in consciousness research. So I thought, well, I have a lot of readers out there, and I also know a lot of scientists. If I put them together, I will have the largest global laboratory in the world. So that's what I did. And we started out small. I started working, and I've worked with the University of Arizona, the University of California, Penn State University, Princeton University, University of Freiburg, and Russia's technical university with Dr. Korotkov. And so I've used different scientists so that we couldn't be accused of bias. And we've done everything from trying to affect those very subtle light emissions from a leaf to trying to heal someone of a post-traumatic stress disorder, and also trying to lower violence in war-torn areas. Now, I wasn't really sure this was going to work. You know, again, I'm a skeptical journalist by training, but it's really worked. We've run 35 experiments to date, and 31 of them have shown measurable, positive, mostly significant effects. And that is everything from trying to make seeds grow faster, trying to affect those light emissions from a leaf, to purifying water. We've done loads of water experiments, to lowering violence in war-torn areas or violent areas, and to healing someone of a serious illness, post-traumatic stress disorder. So there is, just to put that in context, there is no pharmaceutical drug out there with that kind of consistent track record.
How interesting. So the thought is not affecting some other human beings, but the thought can affect some other sort of living organisms, like a plant, or like.
Absolutely, absolutely. With one of our seed experiments, this was a really fascinating experiment because it was so well controlled, and we actually published the results and presented the results at a scientific meeting. What we did was, I worked with the University of Arizona, Dr. Gary Schwartz, a noted psychologist who teaches there, and his laboratory set up 4 sets of seeds and photographed all 4 sets of seeds, sent me the photographs, and the first time we tried it, I was speaking before an audience of about 700 in Sydney, Australia. And so we randomly chose one of the 4 sets of seeds. They were A, B, C, and D. Let's say that we chose seeds A. We didn't tell the scientists which seeds we chose. I asked the audience to send a very specific intention to these seeds to grow a certain amount by 5 days. We finished the experiment, told the scientists we were done, still didn't tell them which seeds we sent intention to. They planted the seeds, measured them 5 days later, and at that point, I unblinded the study and told them which seeds we'd sent intention to. And we discovered that of the 4 sets of seeds, the seeds sent intention grew significantly higher than controls. So let's just unpack that study. First of all, I was with an audience in Sydney, Australia. The seeds were in a laboratory in Tucson, Arizona, 8,000 miles away. Nevertheless, we had a significant effect. And we weren't sending intention to the seeds themselves. We were sending intention to a photographic representation of the seeds, you know, to a symbol of the seeds. Yet we had this effect. So I recognize from that we must be creating some sort of psychic internet when we come together doing intention as a group. Now, we ran that study 5 more times in different locations. So in South Carolina, and different size audiences, South Carolina, Rhinebeck, New York, Dallas, Texas, Los Angeles, California, and then over the internet involving my readers around the world. And every single time, the seeds sent intention grew significantly higher than controls. So that, to me, demonstrated something really powerful about the idea of collective mind. That when we are focused, we can do extraordinary things. Now, just on the 21st of September of this year, so just a little while back from our meeting today, about 10 days ago, I ran another experiment. And this was to try to heal and help Beirut by asking for more, doing a healing intention for the rebuilding of Beirut. And we did this to measure that. That's hard to measure an actual result in terms of measuring out in the field. but we decided to measure it by using a number of Dr. Korotkov's equipment in different locations. So we had one in St. Petersburg, Russia, where he is set up. We had another one in Bangalore, India, and we had a third one in Dubai. And we had participants from around the world doing these in this intention. And we recorded, what we were recording was using his light emissions equipment. They're called a GDV device, but he also has another piece of equipment that he attaches to it called Sputnik, which is a highly, and he's named it playfully Sputnik after the first, the first piece of Russian equipment go into outer space. But he he measures very subtle changes in atmosphere, in the ability of the atmosphere to store charge. It's called its capacitance. And he's found that it is extremely sensitive to human emotion. So we sent intention, while we were sending intention to Beirut, we also focused on this equipment. And we found changes. We've looked at the measurements, and just at the point of our intention, they have changed significantly in our different locations. So there is a demonstration, an extraordinary demonstration of the power of that psychic internet.
I've read somewhere that people who listen to you and read your books, their thoughts sometimes upside down. And I think what you're saying sounds really, really remarkable. And there are, of course, a lot of skeptics. But when you show that, yes, there are some needles which move, there is some positive impacts which happening, then to dismiss it outright, that no, it's not a science, is absolutely wrong. Because we know, and there are a lot of cases when people, when mother, was sending love to her child miles and miles away, and it felt. When something happened with your close ones and you feel it. And there are a lot of things which really cannot be explained through the conventional sort of knowledge.
Well, this is the point. I mean, again, I have to emphasize, I am a skeptic at heart. I look at evidence. I don't want to I don't like what they call woo-woo very much. I like evidence. And I recognize that there is a revolution in science in our understanding of the world, but I want to prove it. I want evidence for it. And that was why I set up the intention experiment. And you can't argue with detail when it's over and over and over again. I mean, we have run 7 peace intention experiments where we're trying to lower violence somewhere. And what we've done is used teams of scientists to analyze statistics before and after our intention. Now, the first one we did in 2008 was to lower violence in Sri Lanka, which was going through a civil war. And we looked at data for several years before and sometime after our week of intention on that. We spent a week doing 8 days, doing 10 minutes each day. Now, lots of things can cause a lowering of violence. And we saw a lowering, not only a lowering of violence, but during the week of our intention, the government won a number of important decisive battles that turned around the entire course of the war. And within 3 months, they'd taken back an area that had been held by the rebel forces. And a few months after that, that 25-year war was over. Now, did we do this? Short answer, who knows? Lots of variables, everything from the seasons to, lots of things. But when it keeps happening every single time, then it starts getting interesting. So for instance, just a few years ago, we did an intention experiment to lower violence in the most violent place in America, which is St. Louis, Missouri. And there's a particular area called Fairground, which is the most violent of all. So we focused on Fairground, and by using an American city, this was great because they have very, very detailed and accurate um, uh, police countings of, of violent crimes and also property crime. So we looked at all the police data from several years before our intention to 6 months afterward. And we looked at St. Louis as a whole and then Fairground. And we found that violent crime had been continuing to go up in all areas in St. Louis. But after our intention, St. Louis as a whole continued to go up. Property crime in St. Louis as a whole continued to go up. Property crime in Fairground continued to go up. But violent crime, which was the focus of our intention, that dropped by 43%. So that kind of thing, which we've demonstrated in Washington, D.C., and we did another one in Washington, D.C., and lots of other areas, starts making things really interesting. Maybe there is something really going on here.
So praying for the world peace, will it help? Will it help when people in different parts of the world are praying?
No, because they're not being specific enough.
Mm-hmm.
World peace. Well, what does that look like? And where? And what? What I have found with our intention experiments is that the more specific we are, the better. I did an experiment once where we just sent love to water and nothing happened. When we sent an intention to change the pH of the water, then it did. So I think we have to be pretty specific about what we want. And that's certainly something I teach in all of my workshops is tell the universe exactly what you want. When do you want it? How do you want it? What do you want? Who does it involve? How much do you want? Instead of saying the lottery, for instance, what I usually say, I have students who say that. Then I say, oh, why? Do you need $20 million? And they say, well, no, I need 20,000 for a new car, or I need 10,000 to put my child through school, or something like that. And so I usually say, well, ask the universe for that. Ask what you want. Ask what you need. Don't ask for a nebulous idea out there.
It's interesting. It coincides very much with those who are in the favor of personal development, goal setting, etc. They say the more specific we are, in NLP even goes further. You have to smell, to touch, and you have to get all these emotions. All your how do you call senses be coherent, and then you can have what you really want. So that's.
I always say that too. With intention, I absolutely believe you should really focus on the moment of achievement, but also use your 5 senses. And one of the things about intention is people always think intention is meditation, that we're doing the same thing, but we're not. We've done brainwave studies looking at the small groups that I run, which I've called the Power of 8, which are small groups clustering together, either together physically or virtually, meeting on Zoom like we are now, and doing intention for a member of the group or even a member outside the group. And what I've found is that when people do this intention together, it's not a state like meditation. It's a very, very highly energized state of focus. It's almost like entering hyperspace, as I like to say. And the brainwave studies we've done on Power of 8 groups bear that out. They show that they are nothing like meditation. We were surprised. We thought we would see brainwave signatures very much like those of meditation. They're completely different. What they are like, almost identical to, are, for instance, brain studies that have been done on Sufi masters involved in chanting, or Buddhist monks involved in ecstatic prayer. So what ends up happening is people together in a group, and people in our intention experiments enter a state of oneness. And it's that state where we actually experience who we really are, which is all connected as part of a quantum field. We actually get to experience that because the parts of the brain that are involved in separation, for instance, the parietal lobes, which are right here, they help us navigate through space. They tell us what is me and what is not me. They are turned way down. They have much less activity there. And also the parts of the brain, the right frontal lobes involved in worry, doubt, negativity, they're also dialed way down. So these are people in a state of ecstatic oneness. And that seems to be the place where miracles take place.
Fantastic. And another thing which I know it's another sort of side effect of your experiments, that those who get together and send all these positive intentions, they actually, let's say, to heal someone, they're actually healing themselves. So,
well, that is the most remarkable thing about it, Gennady, and the part that was the most surprising to me. When I first did these experiments, I just thought we'd have an effect on the target. But once we started the peace intention experiments in 2008, I started surveying people. And I surveyed them just to find out, were they able to get on the internet? Were they able to participate? And what I was shocked to find, really shocked to find, is that they were getting affected too. So that they wrote to me and said things like, I felt like I was part of a higher network. I was crying uncontrollably. I felt goosebumps up and down my arms. It was, this extraordinary experience. I felt like I was part of this energy network, of this furious energy, almost like, some sort of science fiction movie. And it ended when I finished. But also, then they reported, particularly with the peace intention experiments, I've made up with my estranged partner. I'm getting along better with my boss and my coworkers. I'm in love with everyone I come into contact with. 40% or more have said that every single time. And when we've done intentions for healing, we've also seen thousands of people themselves be healed. So for instance, we did an intention experiment to heal Todd Voss, who was a Gulf War veteran who had been part of the Gulf War and had post-traumatic stress disorder. And not only did Todd get better and never seemed to need more treatment after that, but we had thousands of people writing in to say, I have terrible knee arthritis and it's all better. My digestion has really improved. My skin is completely better. My migraines are gone, on and on and on like that. Extraordinary healings. So it made me realize that with these intention experiments, there's some sort of mirror effect going on here, where when we participate as a group in some altruistic act like intention, it seems to reflect back on the senders too.
we definitely, I'm just kind of, recalling myself, when we do good things, we feel better about ourselves, that's for sure. But in this case, it's more than that. But let me ask you a little bit provocative thing. I mean, good intentions, because we have negative and positive emotions, and sometimes we are really not acting, at our best, and we are not sending all good wishes to people, but sometimes we're angry at someone. Have you tried the experiment with the negativity? I mean,
I have not, nor would I want to.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a good batch of evidence about negative intention. I mean, the bad thing is, and the sad thing is, that intention does not have morality. Mm-hmm. I mean, focused thoughts to do harm work just as well as focused thoughts to do good.
Scary.
I mean, it's, if you look at studies, there's an enormous body of evidence, in scientific evidence, about negative intention, where scientists have tested intenders sending intention in a laboratory, say to stunt a plant's growth, or to stop the growth of bacteria or something like that. And it works. And Qigong masters, they've shown they have a technique called destroying mind when they're fighting a partner. And they've been able to use that, to throw a partner across the room with their minds, or to make them go back or hurt them in some way. It works. There's no question that it works. Also, a negative state of mind can affect things. For instance, there was a study, it was very interesting. They took psychiatric patients and they asked them to hold some water and think about this water. And one of the most negative patients used that water, they all use the water to water plants. And the one with the most negativity, it was shown that the plants they watered were much more stunted than the others. So there's a lot of demonstration of this. And of course, if you want to think about something out in the field, negativity and its ability to hypnotize an entire population, think of Hitler in Germany. So it can be used for harm.
Yeah, but on the other hand, if following your logic, all this negativity will have side effect on this someone who is sending this negativity, which is called karma. I mean, if you wish somebody, bad things, then you get it. And I like
absolutely. And that's the other interesting part of it is, yes, if there is this mirror effect, it can affect back on the sender. And also, it takes a highly focused mind to do intention well. And, let us hope that in most cases, people who are filled with negativity don't necessarily have such a focused mind. So that is our one antidote to it. And of course, there are lots of ways to counteract it too, which is, some of the things that I talk about and teach in my workshops is, how do you counter negative intention? And there are many ways.
Right. And it's interesting what you said, that there is no morality to intention. It's just, yeah. Yes, it's very
It's just an ability that we have. It's an ability that we have, that we've always have, that has been denied, by society, by scientists, by teachers. But we all possess this power. And I've seen extraordinary miracles in these groups. For instance, as I say, I run many courses. I also, when I do talks, I usually put people into groups of 8 at the end of my talk and let them do healing intention to a member of the group with a health challenge. And we've had extraordinary situations. One talk I gave not long ago, we had somebody in the audience who was due for a knee replacement. Her knee was so wobbly she couldn't walk on it. And after this intention, where the group sent intention to her, she was able to do a deep squat, ended up canceling her surgery, and she was fine. Somebody else who was unable to focus her eyes after having a stroke, her eyes focused normally after these 10 minutes. Somebody else had a dislocated shoulder that was really painful, and it slotted back into place during the intention, and the pain was gone. And I've seen this now thousands of times. Not everybody, doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to so many people where they're healed and in 10 minutes. So, and that's all we hold intentions for with the intention experiments or the Power of 8 groups. So I remain as surprised as anybody. And as you know, with my book, The Power of 8, it was really an exploration as to why does this happen? What is the mechanism here that could create this situation for this kind of instant healing? And the answer is, as close as I can see, I think it's a combination of a number of things. The power of intention, the power of the group. Groups have what the French psychologist Émile Durkheim called a collective effervescence. It is the power of altruism. You know, you look at the studies on altruism, and they are like a bulletproof vest. Altruism is a bulletproof vest. It protects us, you know, it helps us to live longer, healthier, happier lives when we do things for other people. So altruism is a part of it. But I think the biggest part of it is this entering into a state of oneness. We experience who we really are. And in that experience, we get to understand and feel the power of oneness and its power to heal.
Wow. It's something which really, I think, it definitely encourages me to read more and think more and practice more. And what you would suggest to my viewers, I mean, those who maybe first time ever encountered, you know, this type of thinking, and what you would suggest them to do? What sort of things which can make their life better and life of those around them better? Let's say one or two things which you feel are fundamentally.
Okay, the first thing I think they can do, which is probably the most basic thing, is to start tracking what they're thinking all the time. Because remember, you are beaming out. You're like a television station. You are beaming out to the world all the time. Your thoughts, and those thoughts, whatever they are, the most trivial thoughts you have going through your head, the judgments you're holding and thinking about yourself and other people, every last little thought you have, that collectively is an intention, and it ultimately becomes your life's intention. So the first thing is to start becoming conscious and aware of what you're thinking all the time, and realize that's going outside of you. That's beaming out to the world. That's the first thing. And the second thing I would suggest everybody do, particularly now in this time of social isolation with, coronavirus, is to collect together in a group of 8 and start being together and doing intention together. And certainly they can find out more with my website, lynnmctaggart.com, which has a facility to translate into every language. It will be soon. We'll be launching that in just a few weeks. And they can find out a lot about how to do intention there.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lynne. I really appreciate your time. And really, you're kind of looking at life from the angle which is not that universally sort of accepted. And that's what makes it absolutely wonderful, because I think there is so much truth in your writing, in your teaching. And when I was reading about you, I know that you were named one of the top 100 spiritual leaders. And I expected spiritual leaders to be like gray hair all over, like somebody living in the cave. And, and you are so modern and so open, to the world. And this is a wonderful. And I think that will create even more powerful impact on people who listen to you and read your books.
Thank you so much, Gennady. I really appreciate it. And remember, I'm a journalist at heart. So I try to approach this all with a measure of healthy skepticism and then demonstrate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.